Okay, so for a female versus a male's body, water level is different, and the amount of water in your body is going to affect how alcohol affects you. More water means you can dilute the alcohol, and so men can drink more alcohol than women because men have more water in their body.
Why do men have more water?
They have more blood in their body. They have more muscles. And women have more fat. And so fat would crowd out the water. And just as a percentage, they have more fat. And so with fat, it crowds out the blood vessels, crowds out the water. There's less room for blood and less room for water. And so with men, they have more muscles, with being also more capillaries, more blood vessels. So that's the primary reason why, just based on the muscle mass, is as percentage, men have more muscle mass than women. That's the biggest reason why. Also, besides just the water percentage, which is different, women have less of an enzyme, dehydrogenase. I cannot speak today. I'm so sorry. Dehydrogenase. Anyway, not awake yet. Dehydrogenase right here. You can't see it? So it's an enzyme that breaks down alcohol, but women have a smaller amount of it than men. So men can process alcohol faster than women can because of that enzyme. Hormone changes can also affect. So with high estrogen, high progesterone, alcohol is not able to be broken down as fast. So people take birth control pills. They're getting more susceptible to alcohol because birth control gives you higher estrogen and progesterone, which would lead to faster intoxication. But for men, alcohol use increases estrogen. Testosterone can turn into estrogen. And so alcohol can make that happen. And so with a heavy alcohol use for a man, they can have feminine features because the alcohol turns testosterone into estrogen. And so they can have fertility problems. They can have, again, if they drink it a lot, they can have hair loss, decreased muscle mass, things like that. So I mentioned this yesterday about how to find out how much a drink is equal to, but I'm going to go through that in more detail today. So one drink, scientifically, there's a drink, which is a half an ounce of alcohol. So that's how they define a drink for measuring how much you can have before it hits your blood system and makes you intoxicated. So one drink equals half an ounce of alcohol. A half an ounce is equal to 50 milliliters of alcohol. So for this example, you can take, this is milliliters right here. So you can take the amount of milliliters that are in the drink and multiply it by 13%, and that gives you the amount of pure alcohol in that drink. So this drink contains 48.75 milliliters of alcohol. Take the number and divide by 15 milliliters. That gives you 3 drinks in that. And that's just a 12-ounce can. And so that, like a Coke can size. So sometimes the drinks, it seems like it's one drink, it's 12 ounces, it's not very much, but that's equivalent to 3 drinks of alcohol. So some of these, if they have high percentage of alcohol, it's easy to get drunk off things like this because it tastes sweet, you don't taste the alcohol, and you think it's one serving size when it's really a lot more than one serving size. Everclear, if you have 1 shot of Everclear, so that's 1.5 ounces for 1 shot. And this Everclear is 95% alcohol. So take 1.5 ounces times 95%. That's 1.43 ounces of alcohol. Divide that by 0.5 ounces, you get 2.85 drinks in 1 shot of Everclear. So, yes. There's different percentages of Everclear, but this is the highest percentage. You're not supposed to. Some people do. It would really burn. It would be really unpleasant. But some people do.
What is it used for then?
Usually you put it in mixed drinks. Usually you put it in, punch or Coke, things like that. It's not meant to be drink straight, and most people don't drink it straight. But
Like put it in something else.
yeah, usually they put it in something else. Yeah, that's usually what it's meant for. But some people do take it straight, and it's very. Some people do. It's very unpleasant, and it's. I don't know. I mean, it can make you cough for a long time. I mean, because it's going to really, really irritate your throat and really burn your throat and your chest. It's really unpleasant, and it's really dangerous for you too. It can put you at risk of cancer. So that alcohol touching your throat, and that percentage of alcohol touching your throat in your esophagus, is going to really damage your cells and put you at high risk of cancer. So it's a really bad idea. And also you get 3 drinks in one shot. And so if you look at that, you're getting 3 drinks at once. So you can see right here, you're legally drunk at that point for most people. That's for women. And then for men, you can see right here. So you're going to be at least mostly drunk for most people, but at least intoxicated with 1 shot. Yeah. Okay. But others do have 1 serving size. So ones that are about 5% alcohol that are in a 12-ounce can, that's 1 serving size of alcohol. So like White Claw, for example, it's 12 ounces, 5% alcohol. You get 0.6 ounces of alcohol in this can, which is equal to about 1 drink. And this just shows you a better example of the differences between serving sizes. So 5% beer, the 12-ounce can is equal to about 8 ounces of 7% alcohol, 5 ounces of 12% alcohol. Usually wine is about 12% or so. And then 40% alcohol for things like vodka, whiskey, rum. And so for whiskey, rum, 1 shot of that is equal to 1 drink. And these all equal about half an ounce of alcohol. And then we talked about proof before, but proof is just the percentage times 2. And so 95% alcohol, multiply that by 2, you get 190 proof, Everclear. And then whiskey right here, you can see 44% alcohol, 88 proof. So you just multiply it by 2. They had this originally because 100 proof was at the point when you could light a match to the alcohol and you get a flame. And so they could prove it was pure rum. The pirates and people who were sailing around wanted to know if they were getting pure rum or if it was diluted. And so they would take a match and light it to see if it actually lit. And it would at 100 proof. And so that's what they called, it could prove that it wasn't diluted rum. So that's where that comes from. That's why it's times 2.
So that's only for 50% alcohol, since it would be 100.
That's right, 50% and above, you can light it on fire. I looked to think about moonshine, so I didn't realize this, but moonshine actually is very strong alcohol. It's basically just whiskey. I didn't know that. I thought it was just anything, beer, but it actually is a very high percentage whiskey or rum. And so they would, was it you who were talking about that, Michael? I think that was, or was it Anthony? Oh, Antonio brought it up. Okay. But they would test for the same thing. They would light it on fire. It's had to be at least 50% or above. And if it was a bright red or green flame, it showed that there was contaminants in it, like lead or things like that. And they knew they couldn't drink it. But that's where proof comes from. It might sound confusing, but that's why they have that. Ethanol is drinkable alcohol. There's other kinds of alcohol like rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. That's twice as toxic as ethanol. And that is highly damaging to your organs. Different structures. So you can see that for ethanol, you have 2 carbons, OH, and you have a total of 5 H's. You have 4 right here with 1 more. Actually, I'm sorry, you have 6 H's. You have 5 right here and 1 more. Isopropyl, you have 3 carbons. And there's methanol, which is incredibly toxic.
Gosh, I remember those from chemistry.
Oh yeah, did we talk about those?
All those chains.
Oh, just like the structural formula. Methanol was a common contaminant in moonshine, and it causes blindness. And so these are both incredibly toxic.
Oh, in moonshine?
Yeah. Yeah, they would, if they used wood to distill the alcohol or to make the alcohol, that would contain methanol. So it's highly dangerous. So some people do try to drink rubbing alcohol straight, which is incredibly dangerous for you. That can easily put you in the hospital, or hand sanitizer, which is mostly ethanol, but they do add isopropyl alcohol to hand sanitizer. It doesn't say how much they added, but there's enough that you can taste the bitterness. And so it wouldn't taste sweet. If they had only ethanol in here, it'd be a sweeter taste, but they add isopropyl to make it a really bitter taste. So people don't want to drink it. But some people do, they'll add salt to it to kind of like move out the isopropyl alcohol and get the ethanol on top. But even still, you still have contaminants in there. So that could make you go blind. It could hospitalize you. It makes you really sick. But so people still try it. but it's really dangerous.
What are they
I think,
trying?
oh, drinking hand sanitizer.
God,
Yeah.
that's horrible. I would never.
Yeah, that's horrible.
No.
Oh my gosh.
That's horrible.
Did we go through this chart before?
Yeah.
We did.
I think so.
So you can see right here that anything that's above 0.4, like, or above 0.03, you're impaired. And so driving becomes dangerous. Anything that's 0.03 and below, you can drive safely.
Does body fat percentages matter on this or no?
Not much. No, I mean, a little bit, but it's more about really your weight is the biggest thing that goes into it, but it does a little bit. So yes, body fat percentage. If you have higher body fat, you are going to be more prone to alcohol. As far as weight goes, if you have somebody who's really muscular at 220, and somebody who's not muscular at 220, the person who's muscular is going to process alcohol better than somebody who doesn't have muscle mass. So, and that has to do with the blood system. People who have a lot of muscles have more blood going through their muscles, so they can process it easier. So generally, if you're more muscular, you can take more alcohol than somebody who's not muscular. And so that's why men can drink more alcohol. That's why athletes tend to drink more alcohol, because it doesn't hit them as hard as the ones who are not muscular. And that just goes back to the blood system. 0.08 and above, you're legally intoxicated. About 0.3 and above, that you're in danger of death or a coma at that point.
So just because it takes a lot more for them to get drunk or whatever, does that mean that it's not as bad for them if they drink the same amount that we do?
That would be true. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because it wouldn't affect them as much. Yeah. So that was so this is for men. You can see right here the same thing. So above 0.03, you're impaired. Driving is impaired. It becomes dangerous. 0.08 and above, that's the legal limit for driving. And then 0.3 and above, that's when you're in danger of death or a coma. So it says down here, you can subtract 0.01% for every 40 minutes that's elapsed since you started drinking. So this would assume, if you were to look at this one, that you had 4 drinks in an hour. That's what that means. If you took 4 drinks over 2 hours, you can subtract 0.02% from that. And so you really would be at 0.13 after 2 hours if you drank 4 drinks over that amount of time. So between 0.01 and 0.06 blood alcohol percentage, that's when you have the good effects of alcohol. That's when you feel relaxed, you feel happy, you have a sense of well-being, you're sociable. But it starts to, above 0.06%, that's when it becomes negative. And, people start to drink more and more after a few drinks because they want that good effect even more intensely, but that doesn't happen with alcohol. As you start to drink above 0.06%, it diminishes. It actually makes you feel worse. So at 0.06 to above, that's what you think of as a drunk person. They have impaired reflexes. They can't have trouble walking, have trouble talking. They can't see as clearly. They might have blurry vision. And then at 0.11 to 0.2, that's when it becomes really negative for the person who has alcohol. They can get really emotional. They can get very angry or very sad. Walking is very difficult for them. Talking is very difficult for them. So this would be someone who's really drunk at this stage. And then at 0.21 to 0.29, a stupor, do you know what a stupor is? Basically, they're unresponsive. So at that point, you can talk to them, but they're not going to respond back to you. You can just tell that they might have their eyes open, but they're not going to listen to what you're saying. They can't hear you. They can't respond to you. And then blackouts, do we talk about what a blackout actually is and like what that means? Does anybody know what that is? So a blackout would mean that you're still conscious, and to people on the outside who see you, you seem fine. You might actually talk just fine, walk just fine, but you don't remember anything that you're doing. And so if you have a blackout session, that means that you are conscious, you are doing things, but you have no memory. Your brain cannot record anything you're doing. And so next morning when they wake up, they'll have these large gaps of the night where they have no idea what happened at all. They just have no memory whatsoever of that time. So they can remember like from 8 to 9 p.m., they can know what happened. But after 9 p.m., like 9 to midnight, they have no idea at all. It's just a black part of their memory. They have no idea what happened. So that's what a blackout represents. They're still conscious, they're still doing things, but they don't know what they did.
So does it start the minute that you start to get into that 111 or no, 121?
Yeah, that's right. So if they were at this stage and below, they'd have memory of these parts. But then once they hit this stage, they would have no memory until they got back down to 0.2 and below. And they would start to remember what happened. And then at 0.3 and above, usually they're going to go into a deep sleep. They're not responsive at all. They have a very slow heart rate and breathing, and they're at risk of a coma or death at that stage. That's a very dangerous part to be in. So at that stage, your reflexes are not working properly. Your breathing is impaired. Your gag reflex is not working properly. And also alcohol irritates your stomach. It makes you nauseous. And so they've had a lot to drink at this stage. They're going to be very nauseous. And if they were to throw up, the gag reflex is not able to keep them from choking. And so they're at a big danger of choking to death at this stage because their brain is not able to keep them from choking at this stage. And so that's a big risk in this stage is to choke to death, either from vomiting or just drinking something. Or, I mean, it doesn't have to be something that actually happens from being sick. It could just be trying to drink something that could make them also choke.
What do you do for somebody in those last two stages?
They should be hospitalized at this. At 0.3 and above, they should be at a hospital. So yeah, if you have a friend who's in that stage, who's not responding, who's breathing very slowly, who's vomiting, they should not be at their home. They should be at a hospital because they're at risk of death at that point. Now, if for some reason you can't get to the hospital, they should be on their side because on their back, they're going to choke to death. But on their side, they have a better chance of surviving that. But even still, not even just the vomiting risk, but also just they could fall in a coma even on their own without having the risk of choking to death. So it's a very dangerous situation to be in. At anywhere from 0.2 and above is very dangerous. And 0.3 and above is incredibly dangerous. Do we go through that? No. Okay, so right here. It's also the kind of drink you have affects how it hits you too. So the stronger the drink, the harder it's going to hit and the faster it's going to hit. So if you were to choose to have, say vodka versus having a beer, even though it's the same amount of serving, if you have, serving a beer and serving a vodka, it's still going to hit you harder with the vodka because you drink it faster. And the beer has more additives. It has water, it has sugar, and that's going to slow down the process of alcohol. And that's going to make the alcohol travel gradually through your bloodstream, and you're not going to get as impaired with beer versus vodka. This shows the liver over the years degrading. So the alcohol can break down the liver because that's where alcohol goes to be processed. And it destroys the liver over time. That's called cirrhosis when the liver is damaged.
Does eating a meal before drinking help with slowing down alcohol?
That helps a lot. Yeah, that's a huge difference in how you're going to be affected by alcohol. It can reduce it by about 60%. So 60%, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so yeah, if you are eating or not eating before drinking, that's going to make a huge difference to how you're going to feel. And also drinking water before and during drinking alcohol will also have a huge impact on how you feel. So the food basically slows absorption. It blocks absorption of alcohol into the blood system. And so it makes it go gradually. But if you have an empty stomach, alcohol goes to your blood right away. It hits you all at once. And that makes a huge difference how you're going to feel.
Is it harder to get drunk off that, the
Yeah.
feeling of it?
If you are
Eating
eaten,
before?
yeah, that's right. It'd be harder.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to drink more. So it would just be a more gradual process.
So if you, let's say like you eat a meal, and then you get drunk and then you throw up what you ate, does that mean that your alcohol just kind of overpowered the meal? Like the meal can really help you with that?
Yeah,
Like
well,
you drank too much, I guess?
yeah, I mean, you just drank too much. I mean, the meal definitely did help you. Without that food in your stomach, you would have been a lot sicker.
Okay.
So it definitely helped, but there's a limit. And once you get past that limit, you're going to get nauseous no matter what.
How long after eating will that slowing effect last?
Oh, usually an hour or two. I mean, it's usually how long it's in your stomach for at most. If it's like really heavy food, a couple of hours. If it like greasy food, fatty food, protein, but if it's like carbohydrates, then like 30 minutes. So it just depends on what you've actually eaten and how much you've eaten. So I mentioned before about body size. So if you are larger in size, you have more weight, you have more water to dilute the alcohol. And so that's why you can see on here that weight is going to affect how much you are impaired. More weight means more body mass, more water to dilute the alcohol. We already talked about how men and women process alcohol differently with the enzymes that are in the stomach. And that one drink for a woman is the same as 2 drinks for a man as far as how it affects them. Also, age has an impact. As you get older, you lose water in your body. And so about age 50 and above, the water amount that you've lost is significant to the point where drinking is going to affect you a lot more above that age than it used to. Also, ethnicity plays a role into it, as I mentioned the other day. The genes are going to affect how you can process alcohol. So most Asians cannot process alcohol. They can drink it, but they're not going to feel good when they drink it. They don't have enzymes to break down alcohol very quickly. It stays in their body. It makes their skin flushed. They feel really hot. They feel sick because the alcohol just stays in their body and it's not broken down properly.
That's why they get the red face.
Exactly, yeah, because that's due to their to having enzymes. They need to break down the alcohol. So but Europeans for the most part have the enzymes in high amounts, Russians, Germans especially, so they can drink more alcohol because they have a lot of enzymes to break down alcohol. Food dilutes alcohol, slows the absorption of alcohol. You can reduce it by a good amount. Depending on the food that you have, how much food you have, you can reduce it by 20 to 57%. Also, expectations play a role in how alcohol affects you. And so if you expect it to make you feel good or feel happy or sociable, you probably are going to feel more happy and sociable. If you don't expect it to do that, then it's not going to work the same way. So your mindset going into drinking is going to also affect how it affects you. And also the setting. If you are in a party versus in a room with just a couple of people, that will also make a difference in how it affects you. Physical tolerance. So people who drink heavily are going to have more tolerance for alcohol. They can seem to be fine after several drinks because they're able to overcome the impairment. And so they might be able to talk perfectly fine, but they're still impaired. They still have poor judgment. They still are going to be unsafe driving. It's just that they mask the effect. And so they seem to be functioning well with several drinks, but they're really not. I mean, they're able to just overcome a few of the effects. They seem like they're okay, but it's more dangerous because they're more likely to drive because they feel like they're okay, but they're still very unsafe at driving. That does not change. Their reflexes are still very bad. Their coordination is still bad. That can't change, no matter how much tolerance you have.
How easy is it to test for BAC?
Well, you just get breathalyzer, which are pretty easy to get. So the breathalyzers work because alcohol in your blood goes up to your lungs. Your blood connects to your lungs, and carbon dioxide goes out of your blood into your lungs. Oxygen goes into your lungs. Alcohol evaporates very quickly, and so alcohol evaporates into your lungs. And you breathe it out, and that's where the breathalyzer comes in because it can measure how much alcohol you're breathing out, which tells you your blood concentration.
So after like a party or whatever, you could test yourself?
Yeah, people have those. Yeah, they're not very expensive. And so people have to have them. If they've had a DUI, their car won't start until they breathe into a breathalyzer and it's below 0.08.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so if by law, if they've had a DWI or DUI, they might have to have those in their car. Others just keep them just so they can know what their concentration is, but they're easy to get.
Wait, so why do police think you walk in?
That tells them if you're impaired.
Oh, why would they just give you the breath?
So people refuse the test. They can refuse to take the breathalyzer test.
Could you just refuse to?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
But it just makes it harder for you. If you don't cooperate with the cops and you don't do their tests, it just makes, they're gonna arrest you at that point. So if you cooperate with them, it's easier for you. You get less charges against you. And so you have incentive to cooperate with them. But some people don't want to take a breathalyzer test. And so in place of that, they're gonna have them walk.
Have you seen the video where this guy got pulled over and like he did all the tests and was on camera? He did them all perfectly. He said the alphabet backwards.
I think that was a parody. I don't
But then
know.
like the officer
It's-
asked him like, "Are you drunk?" And he said, "Yes, I am."
I think that I saw that one. I thought that was a joke.
I don't know.
I think it was.
How fast do they expect you to say the alphabet backwards?
They don't usually do, they don't do that one. They don't, that's not, they don't make you do that one. No, that's, yeah. No, that's not. If they ask you to, they're trying to embarrass you. They don't really expect you to do that. They're just trying, that's what they'll do. Sometimes cops will try to like make you like see how bad you're off. And so that's one reason why they also make you those tests, just to impress upon you like how impaired you are. Just to make the person admit that they, because people usually aren't going to admit they're drunk. I mean, but after they've done a few tests, then it's hard not to admit that they're drunk. And so it's kind of the idea behind it, is to embarrass the person, to make them realize how bad they really are. Because it's hard. I mean, a lot of people just don't know how bad off they are until they have to do those kinds of things. Then they realize. Alcohol poisoning. So this is an acronym that helps you know the warning signs of alcohol poisoning. Mental confusion, so they're not making any sense at all. They're unresponsive. You try to talk to them, they don't talk back to you, they don't look at you, or they can't wake up. If they're sleeping, you can hear them gasping for air, snoring a lot, they're vomiting. And so that would be the MUST part. And then seizures are also a lot more common with alcohol use. Slow breathing, below 12 breaths per minute. So if somebody's breathing below 12 breaths per minute, that's the danger zone. They should go to the hospital right away. And so if there's somebody you know who is passed out and you're not sure if they've had too much, watch their breathing. If it's below 12 breaths per minute, they're in danger of going to a coma or dying, and they should go to the hospital right away. How can you tell? I mean, you can look. I mean, you can kind of, you can, exactly. I mean, you can kind of see their chest way up and down, or you can feel their pulse, and you
Yeah,
can.
what about heart rate?
So heart rate, I don't know if I have that on here or not. I don't think I do. It's more the breathing rate than the heart rate. And at that stage, it's gonna be hard to get a pulse anyway, because their blood pressure is so low. But breathing is a lot better indicator as far as how gone they are. So that if you can't see their chest moving down, you can probably push against it to feel, or maybe like their throat and feel their breathing. That's some ways you can tell. Or regular breathing, if they go between 10 seconds between breaths, that also would be a big risk.
How often is hypothermia a symptom?
Very often. If it's very easy to get cold with drinking alcohol, which is surprising because you feel really warm when you drink alcohol, but it's actually, you're losing body heat. No, I mean, it's fine. I mean, you can drink alcohol with your parents. So, I mean, it's fine to maybe drink alcohol. So people who drink alcohol, they're gonna have red face, red skin. Blood comes to the surface of their body, and so they feel hot. But they're losing body heat. And so people can, in the wintertime especially, will go out without a coat on, and it's really cold, and they won't feel cold, but they actually are getting very cold. Their body is being damaged. They just don't realize it. So hypothermia is a very big risk if they're outside in the cold. Inside, not as much, but if they're in a cold environment, yeah, it's a big risk. They can die from just that.
So the idea of drinking strong alcohol when it's cold
Yeah,
doesn't actually keep you
It's
warm.
going to be just the opposite. Yeah, and when people try to drink alcohol to warm up, it's just the opposite. It makes you lose heat, and you feel even colder afterwards. Now, at first you feel really warm, but you're losing body heat when you do that. So if you see these things, and I didn't talk about this in the notes, but besides the things I talked about, also paleness of the skin, blue skin, shows that they're losing oxygen to their blood. So 911 should be called when these things happen. It's an emergency. And some people think, well, I can give them coffee and that will help, or a cold shower, or just let them alone and let them sleep. Those are all really bad things to do for a person. Drinking coffee or drinking anything is really dangerous because they're going to probably choke on it. So they should not drink anything at all, water, coffee, because they're in danger of not being able to swallow it and choke on it. A cold shower can shock them to the point of having a heart attack or having or going into a coma. So they should not be in a cold environment. They should not be put out into a cold room or put cold water on them. That will just make them more at risk of going into a coma. Let them sleep. They're in danger of choking if they're sleeping. Lay them on their side at first. So if they're on their back, that's the most dangerous position to be in. And you should call 911 or poison control. So if you don't want to call 911, if you're not sure, then you can call poison control and they'll tell you what to do. As I mentioned the other day, they give you immunity. So if you're underage and you're with somebody who's underage, you can call poison control and they're not going to press charges against you because you're trying to save your friend. So, but that should be done. You should definitely get somebody involved at this stage.
What's the number for poison control?
I think it varies from state to state. I think every state has a different one.
Anthony, should I be getting it for you?
Oh, I'm sure they can. I mean, 911 definitely, if these things happen, you should call 911, but if you don't want to for some reason, then poison control. So 911 should be your first option. But if you really don't want to, yes, everyone has their own, you can just Google it, but for one of them, it's 800-2222-122. So it's 3 2s, 1, and then 3 2s. So that's one of them. Okay. So that ends the alcohol section. We're going to talk about caffeine on Monday. I'm going to give you a quiz over all this on Tuesday. And we'll start to review for your final exam on Tuesday. So, yes, yeah, the questions like that. I'll give you a study guide over the section on Monday for you to know what to study for the final and for the quiz. But we'll talk about caffeine on Monday. In preparation for the final exam, just make sure you get your old study guides. So we have chapter 5, the last half of chapter 5. We have chapter 6, 7, 9, sorry, 8. No, yeah, we skipped 8, 9. And then the drugs, which I'll give you the study guide for on Monday. So just make sure you have those for the final exam. There's no surprises. It's a very straightforward exam, just like we had in the fall. About 100, 200 questions, roughly multiple choice, matching true and false. For drugs, there might be some short answer questions, which I will tell you like what to expect in the final exam, but there could be some writing out questions for the drug section. Did everybody turn in their worksheet today?
Yeah.
Okay.
McDonald's not here, so he did not.
I need to-
Okay.